What is up, guys? Stark here. I am back for another Fate video, and in today's video we are going to go back to our character spotlights and we are going to take a look at the Summer 3 batch of servants. So I'm going to have a chain of videos coming out for you guys, and the first one is going to be the 5-star character for part 1 of this event, and that's going to be the Archer version of Joan of Arc. So she comes out in a Archer class instead of her regular ruler class, and she's a really cool character. I really love the character design for her, and she is, in my opinion, a very good character. However, there is a huge drawback to that, as you do need her MP2 level 2 or higher in order to effectively use her the best you can. So that might kind of steer a few people away from using her, but nonetheless, she is a pretty good character. So we're just going to go ahead and get straight into it and talk about her a little bit. So her stats at level 90 will be 15,743 HP and 10,525 attack. This will rank her 4th overall in HP and 66th overall in attack. As for her archer counterparts, she ranks last for the 5-star archers in attack, but she ranks 1st overall in the 5-star archers for HP. So, bit of a trade-off there. Her star generation is 8%, her star absorption is 153. Her Noble Phantasm generation on her attacks is 0.68, and on defense it'll be 3%. So overall, Joan is a pretty strong character in my opinion. She has a really solid kit of skills, and she's basically able to be an arts looper under the right circumstances given the effects of her skills. So her first skill is going to increase her own arts card effectiveness for 3 turns, as well as imply invincible to herself 2 times over the course of 3 turns. So it's a pretty standard skill here, just being able to increase your arts card effectiveness at 30% at level 10 on a 5-star charge time is really nice. There is the added bonus of the survivability aspect to it, where you get the invincibility for 2 attacks essentially. So that's going to be really helpful to keep her alive, and she could potentially dodge Noble Phantasms off of this as well. The only drawback here is that it is tied into her own attack boost, so maybe there's situations in which you want to use her invincibility where you don't necessarily have the ability to use her arts increase, but they do both last for 3 turns, so it's not a huge drawback, and it is on a really low cooldown as well. So there are definitely other situations where there'll be an attack and a defense buff in the same time, where it's a lot harder to decide which one to use. This one is pretty easy, pretty straightforward really, because they last the same length. But overall, I think this is a pretty good skill for her. Her second one is going to increase her own Noble Phantasm gauge, as well as increasing her own Noble Phantasm strength for 3 turns, and also will increase her critical strength on water fields for 3 turns. So obviously the battlefield effects are always going to be very specific towards that battlefield, of course. So we're really not even going to talk about that too much. It is a 50% increase on those fields, so that's going to be really helpful if you do find yourself in that situation where you're on that. But we're not going to talk about that too much. We're just going to talk about the other 2 effects really. So she does have a Noble Phantasm battery at 40%, so that's going to be pretty huge, being able to get almost half your gauge filled, so you can either use that to set up for your first Noble Phantasm or use it on the 2nd turn for your 2nd Noble Phantasm. She does have the ability to loop as well, so using that battery is going to be a huge factor in being able to loop with her. You just have to make sure you use it at the appropriate time in order to get, your gauge filled. And then she also does increase her strength as well by 20%. It is on a 6-turn charge time, so that's pretty standard for something like this. Actually, it's kind of a little bit lower than you'd expect for something like that, but still pretty nice to have. And overall, good skill. Definitely want to level this one up quickly so you can get the most out of the MP battery. Her 3rd and final skill will increase the attack of all allies for 3 turns, as well as increasing the attack of all good allies except herself for 3 turns. So 2 standard 20% buffs here for each effect on a 5-turn charge time. It's just standard attack increase. It's going to be very helpful to boost up your allies. Obviously, you're going to take good allies onto your team with her, just so you can get that extra 20% increase overall for those characters. As for her passives, she does have 2 passives. The first one is the Magic Resistance B, which will increase debuff resistance by 17.5%. And then she does have the Independent Action EX, which will increase her critical strength by 10%, increase her Noble Phantasm gauge each turn by 3%, only when on a field near water for yourself. So once again, you do have that in play, which is unfortunate because having that would be pretty beneficial to be able to just keep NP looping a little bit easier with an extra 3% each turn. But once again, it is only on a specific battlefield, so you really can't count on that too much when you're bringing her into the fight. So overall, for her skills, I will give her 4.5 stars. She has a fantastic kit of skills, honestly. Even if you take out the battlefield conditions, skills, and effects, she still has a really good kit of skills. She has attack increase, arts increase, NP battery, NP strength increase. She's got quite a lot there. She even has invincibility, so she pretty much checks a lot of boxes, and overall she just has a very good kit of skills. So now let's take a look at her command chains and her noble Phantasm. For her command chains, or for her command deck rather, she has 1 quick, 2 arts, 2 buster, and the hit counts are going to be 4 on the quick, 2 on the arts and buster, and 5 on her extra attack. So she does have a little bit of a lower hit count on her arts and her buster, but she makes up for it with her quick and extra attack hit counts. As far as command chains go, for damage, you're going to go buster arts, buster extra. For noble Phantasm generation, you're going to go, you're going to take someone else's arts card, and then you're going to go arts, and then that'll give you 81% to your gauge. Now you do have to remember that is factoring in the 40% for her skill, so do keep that in mind. But overall, that's still going to be a pretty good gain for yourself. And then for crit stars, you're going to go arts, buster, quick, extra for 15 critical stars. And then for her noble Phantasm, it is going to just be a pretty basic one that'll just deal damage to all enemies. And then on the overcharge, you'll gain critical stars each turn for 3 turns. So yeah, it's a pretty standard one. It is an AoE one. It does pretty solid damage, and it is possible to NP loop this because it is an arts noble Phantasm, and she does have her NP battery that she can use to refund it a little bit extra and just fire off back-to-back noble Phantasms, which is going to be pretty nice. You do get those critical stars as well, which will help, if you have a lot of critical stars, you can crit on your attacks, which will make getting your noble Phantasm a little bit easier. So yeah, it is possible to NP loop with her, and the damage itself isn't really that special, but if you're looping it, eventually you're just going to do enough damage to knock out the enemies. So there's really not much of a problem there. If you're just using it for farming, you shouldn't have any issues as far as damage output goes for that. So overall for her damage, I'm going to give her 3.5 stars. It seems a little weird for a low damage output for someone who can do like NP looping and stuff, but it's just the way it is really. She doesn't hit that hard for a noble Phantasm. Now she does have quite a few buffs that can help increase that damage overall. But at the end of the day, she doesn't really do that much damage, and especially if she's not using her noble Phantasm, she's not going to be doing that much damage either. So that's a bit of a shame, but she does again make up for it in the fact that she can NP loop. So again, if you're NP looping, you're probably not going to have too much problems killing like at least the first waves of mobs before you get to the boss, and then you can always bring in supports that can help increase her damage output or her arts effectiveness, so it's not a huge issue overall. As far as her critical ability goes, I am only going to give her 3.5 stars for this, mainly due to the fact that her second skill is limited to the battlefield conditions. If that wasn't the case, then her critical ability would be significantly higher. Being able to get a 50% increase to crit damage for 3 turns would be really nice, but you do have to do it on a battlefield near water, so that does limit her options quite significantly, which is a bit unfortunate, but it does just limit her critical potential if you're using her in a situation where she's not on that battlefield. And then as for her noble Phantasm, she will generate stars there for that, so that's going to be very helpful in order to like sustain the crits and get extra stars. But overall, losing that second skill, or that third effect on her second skill, is just going to be really big, and it just drags her down. Unfortunately, it just drags down her crit ability a little bit. As for her noble Phantasm, I am going to give it 5 stars. It's kind of strange that I do that, but once again, this is not specifically just her noble Phantasm. It is like her noble Phantasm generation, and like how easy it is for her to get her noble Phantasm looped in with the actual effect of her noble Phantasm, and she's just really good at getting her noble Phantasm generated. She has really good NP refund. She's able to loop her noble Phantasm. It does decent damage, It doesn't really have any special effects or anything like that. You do get stars off of it, which is really nice because it does last for multiple turns. So you can have a bit of a sustained, star flow for yourself for those turns. And if you're looping it, you'll be able to keep that going for pretty much the entire fight. So it does have some pretty good benefits there. So overall, 5 stars. Her survivability is also really good as well. She's going to get 4.5 stars here. She has really high HP, some of the best in the game to begin with. So she's already in a really good spot there, and she does have the invincibility that she gets on her first skill. Now it is only going to be 2 times, but that could potentially save you from a Noble Phantasm or just a really bad turn. So either way, she does have some pretty nice survivability there. She doesn't really have any hard defense, but with that much HP and the invincibility, you really don't need it. And if you're worried about it, you could just bring in someone to help bring her defense up a little bit. And if you're trying to MP loop anyway, you might be bringing Waver in, so you have that defense skill right there. And then for her support, I am going to give her 4 stars. She does have 20% attack increases for good allies, so that's going to be a really huge bonus to those characters if you do make a team composition like that. And that's a pretty good increase to your attack, so you definitely don't want to miss out on that. And then she also does have her Noble Phantasm. Again, I've talked about it before, where she can generate those stars every turn for 3 turns. Even just at base, you're going to get 10 stars every turn for 3 turns. So that's going to be really nice, not counting anything else you get from your regular attacks. So you're going to have a really good attack increase, you're going to have a really good flow of stars. So she doesn't really have anything too crazy for like skills for support, but she just makes up for it in being able to just provide for her team. And she can't MP loop, so she can wipe out the enemies pretty quickly. So overall, she will get a 4.2 out of 5. In my opinion, she's a really good character with a really good kit of skills, a really good overall character flow, in my opinion. And she's definitely a character that I'm excited to level up and use and just be able to experience like the MP looping for Arts teams. And just knowing that Artoria Caster is coming out eventually, she should definitely benefit greatly from that. So excited to level her up, and then in like 2 years when we get Artoria Caster, I'll be able to combo them together and see if it was worth it. As for banners that she comes back on, she's part of the summer batch, so she really doesn't come back in any other banners until her rerun next year. So if you want her, you have to pull for her in this banner, or you'll just have to get lucky in a GSR at some point. But that's pretty much it. So if you want her, pull for her now. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, I do have the links below to my Twitter, Twitch, Patreon, and Discord. So feel free to check those out. And I'll see you guys next time.
さあ、行きますよ。聖女より大いなる海の恵みをお届けです。ホップステップグレートオーシャン。エオセアン